Hello everyone, I am Chris and this is development preview of the game In Vacuum. We have currently finished version 0.4 and wanted to share with you what is the current status of the development. In this video we will be talking about these topics.
Hello, it's Darek here. We thought through what In Vacuum actually is going to be and what we want to tell the player through the game. For example, player learns some scientific knowledge about cosmos. Focus is put on a psychological aspect of an astronaut being alone in space. The game shows how much humankind is dependent on the technology achievements. Also, we tried to decide what kind of emotions we would like to inflict in player, what should the experience be like. Should the game be more like a thriller or a parody? Should it be quick-paced or hypnotizing? Should the plot events be mainly reflected in the game mechanic and environment, or a little bit more described by some kind of narration mechanism? So we managed to narrow down the goals behind the game plot as well as the means to achieve them. This was partly motivated by the new ability to implement the game plot, which brings us to the next agenda item. As we do not want to spoil anything from the story yet, we will remain silent about the details. In addition to the story, we spend more time into breaking down concepts and features that we'll need to support telling the story itself. Tails are our biggest feature we worked on this version. If you wonder what they are, you can think of them as quests from any other game. What we have accomplished in previous version was to provide a rather solid way of how they can be defined, stored and interpreted inside the game. This time we extended this functionality to allow defining tails easier with usage of helpful incident and actions. Whole storytelling system consists of 4 main concepts, which are actions, incidents, conditions, tails. An action reflects atomic activity performed on particular game component like astronaut, equipment, the time, or the resource. It is more of a technical thing rather than a logical one. Some examples of actions are: place a fire animation at chosen location, increase the temperature of the diffusion mesh node placed at chosen location, reduce oxygen amount of the diffusion mesh node placed at chosen location, turn on the ship alarm sound, set astronaut body heat level. An incident is basically a series of actions combined together in order to execute an event which is meaningful from the story point of view. It is heavily parameterized and can often be used in multiple tails. Incident example would be start a fire inside the corridor. Condition is something that glues incidents into a single consistent tail. Conditions can be cascaded so that they can make a tree-like structure of logic consisting of any level of alternatives and conjunctions. Each single condition communicates with particular game system in order to determine whether it is satisfied or not. The state of root condition is calculated out of its children conditions using simple Boolean logic. A tale is a story, a quest, fully enclosed and rather unique. A good example might be a tale telling a story about lost cargo that can be received only by traveling to point A, B and C, where all of them would require skill to avoid being hit by asteroids. Asteroid hit may cause a fire inside the ship. From technical point of view, tail is a state machine. In one state, a number of incidents are executed sequentially. The previously mentioned conditions take the role of transitioning the tail from one state to another. Each state can be connected to any number of others, which allows game stories to have a non-linear structure. We have also added the possibility to replace existing incident, tail, or even a package. A package is a labeled set of tails and supporting an incident that modder will be able to add to the game. The game will start with a basic package called core. The core package will include most of the basic functionality and APIs that will allow modders to expand the game even further. To make the system more transparent and self-tested, even our main game store will be a package built similarly to user mods. With our new replace feature, modders will be able to override some of the thesis functionalities or even alter other modders' functionality. It means they will be able to provide fixes, expand some native or custom content, or even break the game if they require.
Equipment is still the most crucial part of the ship that astronauts will use to communicate with most of the systems. Equipment requires two resources to function. Powder is a resource required to assemble equipment, energy is used to power it. We spent some time on balancing these amounts. As energy is not infinite resource, astronauts won't be able to power every single equipment type that exists, but rather will need to choose wisely between them. We don't want the balance to be part of lucky numbers, therefore we have created a model for energy and powder. It comes with a script that translates that model into a C++ header file code that is used directly by the game. If we find out that the balance is not correct, we will fix the model and regenerate the numbers. That is going to be our general approach for all balancing concerns. Start with a model, tweak it if it doesn't work. Our framework received some new features as well. Diffusion Mesh is a network of nodes that can exchange physical properties between themselves. A single node can hold information about amount of gas, its mixture, and temperature in areas surrounding the node. Diffusion Mesh handles that the nodes are set in correct locations and their neighbors are properly marked based on their physical interpretation. Before this version of the game, only a single diffusion mesh could exist in a level, but now we have expanded the system with a couple of new improvements. What we wanted to do is to have an option of multiple diffusion meshes existing across the ship. They could be able to exchange energy and gas when they share open space. For instance, when the doors between them are opened. With addition of special proxy volumes, we can mark parts of two diffusion meshes. System will automatically identify which ones and how many nodes are within that volume and mark them to be proxy nodes, with properly set neighbors to be ones of the other mesh. That way, two diffusion meshes can exchange physical properties between them through those nodes. In addition to that, we allowed the proxy volume to be enabled, disabled based on external triggers. That allowed us to use door state as a marker whether exchanging should be turned off or on. Additionally, we wanted objects that are not part of the diffusion mesh to be able to exchange energy with it. We created two types of such objects. One that is statically placed and do not move across the ship. It can communicate with a same node in their lifetime. Other that is dynamic and normally is allowed to move, therefore needs to communicate with the closest node, which is different based on their location. For this version we have completed the latter, a dynamic client of the mesh. In this case, Astronaut. From now on, Astronaut will be asked for its body temperature and it will exchange energy with surrounding diffusion mesh. That way we have given another measure for the player to look for. Too high or too low temperature will harm Astronaut's body, as the astronaut's suit provides limited protection. On top of that, we have also the Diffusion Mesh Manager. It helps initializing diffusion meshes and provide API to other components of the game.
We are now able to distinguish between main game time and mini game time. It means we can play a mini game with the rest of the game being paused or running, depending on our choice for particular mini game or situation. We no longer use the engine's game pause feature, for we implemented our own. We can perform an effective pause by stopping the main game mechanics, so we can limit players' control over the game world, but without freezing special effects, item idles, animations, and user interface. In implementation, we introduced a new data type which reflects the game world time. It helps to avoid misconceptions during implementation of the game functions which are driven by time.
Last part of framework changes was work on yet another manager, the Ship Elements Manager. Ship element is an interactive part of the ship, but it is not an equipment. We identify them as doors, lights, solar panels, mainframes, and few more. In the future we might expand that list. The idea behind having such manager and ship elements interfaces is that every part of the ship exposes same interfaces. We can use unified calls across all objects and expect they will act as requested, but still handle the details by themselves. For instance, if we would call disable all lights, simple light will act on it differently than on multi-objects entity that contains not only lights but other objects. Thanks to the ship element interface, they will export same function to do so.
Howler was improved visually with real, physically based lights and some overhaul of how they work on the ship. Demeter was extended with additional currently empty corridors, but also security camera system was integrated into it. Aphrodite was extended with additional items and equipment slots were placed into the corridors. We have also added doors and implemented simple security system that divides Aphrodite into 4 different security sectors.
We have expanded our internal library with new assets. We acquired new sound library and a couple of models libraries. We also have created a new bunch of music tracks that were bundled into another NES album. If you're interested into that album, you can find the link to SoundCloud page in the description of this video. Next version might not be as huge as this one when you think about the content, but its goal might be the most important so far. We are planning to expose version 0.5 to a closed beta community for testing and initial feedback. Therefore, it has to work as shippable. It also provides some sort of communication with our server and allows to share feedback directly from the game or separate launcher. It needs to provide sandbox experience, so it will also aim to provide working AI that executes tales and gives the player some stuff to do already. It still might be full of workarounds and be a little bit rough, but we are hoping that early feedback can help us in future. We also aim to improve sound propagation and work on yet another iteration of the story plot. That's all for this video. Feel free to contact us with feedback, positive vibes or complaints. Surely you will be listened. Thank you all for watching and see you next time.